May 31st, 2025. Welcome to This Week in Waukesha, the podcast series. I'm your host, Downtown Donnie Brown, coming to you from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown here in our beautiful Banting Park home. I am joined by my young and extraordinary producer, the mighty Max Martinson, who's working out at the WAUK studios in Radio Park there on Victory Avenue. And our guest today is no stranger to This Week in Waukesha. He made two previous appearances on the radio. I believe it was two. And this is Patrick Nettesheim, Waukesha native, Waukesha North graduate, and the founder of Music 6S, and also the founder of its kind of precedent or preceder, Guitars for Veterans. And Patrick has used his gift for guitar playing to help soldiers and now first responders, educators, anybody that has dealt with PTSD or any type of trauma with free guitar lessons and free guitars. And there's an amazing story behind that, which we'll get to later. But Pat's known since he was about 4 years old that he wanted to be a guitar player. And some of that influence, we believe, came from another Waukesha son. We all know Les Paul, and a big hero of Pat's. And on June 9th, Les Paul will be celebrating posthumously his 110th birthday. And to honor that, Pat has organized a birthday party for Les Paul at Hannon's at 357 West Broadway on Monday, June 9th from 4 to 10 p.m. And Pat, why don't you take over for me? People listen to hear too much of me already, so go ahead.
I just want you to hear. I want to hear posthumous again. I mean, that was really well.
Yeah.
That's a
So, happy heavenly birthday, Les Paul. Fellow Gemini too, by the way. So.
A Gemini 2.
Yeah, that's right.
So, all right, very good. Yes, we are going to celebrate Les Paul's 110th birthday at Hannon's, which is 357 West Broadway. You know, the big finger pointing down. So it's like, well, where is it? Well, you don't get that. Just don't stand under that finger.
That's right. I forgot the big finger.
Reminds me of a scene out of Yellow Submarine with the Beatles, the big finger going around, but they use the correct finger too, which is great, the pointer. But that's 357 West Broadway, right across from Waukesha State Bank. The doors, as we would say, open at 4 p.m. on Monday, June 9. We picked a Monday, June 9 because June 9th is Les Paul's birthday. And it worked out good because there's so much that goes on downtown Waukesha. And, a Monday night, I think it just opens a window of opportunity for us to get people engaged starting off the week the right way. 5 o'clock is when we begin entertainment. And the entertainment that we have is live music, which is doing less a solid there, of course. Jesse Volker, who's a singer-songwriter, opens the show at 5. Erin McGroovy. She's also an excellent singer-songwriter, plays in a few bands. She's at 5:30. Then we have a jam band that's fairly new to the scene, but they don't lack talent for sure. They're called the Dead End Social Club.
Nice.
You're
Great
going to
name.
want to see them at 6, and then at 7:30 we've got folks that are going to do somewhat of a tribute to the Grateful Dead. Working Man's Dead.
Can't wait. Really excited about that portion of the program.
Yeah, a nice evening of music, but we're also there to celebrate his birthday. We'll have birthday cake, and I believe we'll have food, and well, certainly there'll be beverage as it is Hannon's. And there's free entry. However, we always encourage donations, whether it be money or instruments, because what this is doing, Don, I believe it brings the living legacy part of the equation to Les Paul's heritage, and that is paying what we're doing forward to create more musicians and help people find joy through those healing power of the aforementioned instruments, which in the case of Music 6S, that's the new organization that I founded. We provide free guitars, bass guitars, keyboards, drums, and
Wow.
for vocalists, it'd be a
So not just
microphone.
guitars.
Not just guitars. What I like to say, Don, it's School of Rock for adults. However, with all that said, if there's children that have to deal with, unfortunately,
Yeah,
trauma, whether
sure.
it's secondary through their parents' PTSD or something as unfortunate has happened to them, we can bring them into the program as well. And we do in person, but also we do online lessons.
Mhm.
So we can reach people wherever they're at. This is free. This is free for those
Yeah,
who.
how about that? No
Mhm.
cover charge to see four, good, great locally talented bands.
No cover charge, and no cover charge to get into the music success program either. And that's why we're asking for these donations and help that mission move forward. We're a nonprofit 501c3. Uh, so the evening's going to have special guests speaking about their experiences firsthand with Les Paul, and we'll have some related things to his life there, as well as some really cool guitars to observe, but also that are set up for a silent auction, some Les Paul artwork for auction and or for sale. And it's the teamwork and the camaraderie and the community that we're building through music success, and that you do, Don. And as a former alderman, you do know how important that is. I grew up in Waukesha, and it's just wonderful to bring folks in the city together to coalesce around, an icon like Les, but also a hero to many.
Yeah, no doubt. And Pat, we've talked about this. I had a vision, and I guess we could say it's a shared vision. I I envision a big Les Paul Guitar Town festival that would mirror as a festival in my grandmother's hometown in Ireland called the Willie Clancy, which is essentially a traditional music school. It has lessons and great artists, but it's also it's evolved into so much more, where there's like every pub has an impromptu session, which a gathering of artists playing, jamming together, if you will, very much like akin to the jazz tradition. And I see that happening for Waukesha someday, where like when you, especially when you look at all the different guitar stores and classes. Our good buddy Danny Faustman is part
Mhm.
of this effort,
Yes,
and
Guitar for Life.
yeah, Guitar for Life, and so many others. And like this is a great starting point, and you did this, Pat. You took the leap, and I'm so thankful for you for doing that, and also thankful that you've asked me to be a co-host. And so I
Yeah.
really, I
And we
really
do
look
need
forward
an
to
MC for
hamming
the
it up.
night, Don.
Yeah, no, I count me in. I can't wait
All
to
right.
be your
It's here it
MC.
is, official.
Yep,
All
we got it.
right.
No, that's going to be super fantastic, and we'll have to switch to tie dye when I introduce the Working Man's Dead.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
So,
if you don't have any, we'll make sure you get some colors on that shirt.
and
Some
fans of
condiments.
the Dead in a lot of great bands, Pink Floyd, like they'll tell you, in many cases, the cover bands can
Hmm.
often be better live entertainment than the band itself. And
Yeah.
also the fact that you get to see it in a smaller venue like Hannon's, an intimate venue, that it really is a treat, and a great way to spend what could be like the most beautiful Monday night of the summer, that June 9th, right as summer's popping in. I know that the temperatures are supposed to get up to the high 70s on this day today, the last Saturday in May. And so a week from this coming Monday will be the 110th birthday party for Les Paul. And
Yeah. And Don, right on with what you're saying. We want to include as many as Waukesha staple businesses and supporters as we can.
yeah,
Danny Faustman being one of those right downtown, but also we have some great allies with Outpost Music,
yeah,
with Chris White over at White House of Music, that's where I
nice.
started.
That's a big one. Yeah,
I started my teaching career
sure.
right downtown at their old location, across from what used to be a theater. And we love working with them. We My parents got their loan for our first home from Waukesha State Bank right across the street. My mom
Nice.
worked there for
The Taylors.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to reach out to those guys. But
Yeah.
growing it would be wonderful. It absolutely would be wonderful. A lot of people are looking at coming into celebrate Les Paul with festivals now, which is good because
Yes.
there's been a little bit of a lull.
Yeah.
However, we will always do something on his birthday,
Yeah.
no matter what day of the week that falls on. That's when we honor Les. And as musicians, every time we pick up that guitar and play or record, multi-track or add special effects, we're honoring his spirit for sure.
No, that's fantastic. And can I ask, because you grew up in Waukesha and obviously influenced by Les Paul, were your parents involved in music at all?
No.
Okay. But that's great. I mean, that's how, because I remember I met your dad yesterday, and that was an honor
Yeah,
of
that
your
was
music
cool.
success.
A veteran, yeah.
And he was a war veteran. Is that
Well,
right?
he served in the U.S. Army, but it was
Okay.
right between Korea and Vietnam.
Okay.
So fortunately,
Right.
he didn't have to serve in combat. And a
Sure.
lot of men and women who have been in our military that weren't in combat tend to think that, well, I'm not really a vet and so forth. And I finally convinced my dad about 10 years ago you got to embrace this, Pops, because
Yeah.
you could have been sent to. Nobody knows what their destiny is going to. Hopefully, it's not a final destiny, in the armed
Yeah.
forces.
And you know what I'm guessing, Pat, is that what your father hasn't told you is that he may have been called to stand by or to be ready
He
during the
was.
missiles of October crisis in 1962, when the whole world was like at a standstill, like thinking that the worst was going to happen. And so
Absolutely. He
there
was
were
in
a
the
lot of these
reserves at
close
that
calls.
time,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, he would
Yeah.
call up everyone who's
And
still standing.
the preparation, it's like we've been successful in all our war efforts because we weren't the first to go in, at least in the world war efforts, that there was years of preparation that went into it. So all those men and women that were part of that effort should be embraced. I guess the ones that went into combat, certainly they made the ultimate sacrifice, especially those who didn't come back here in
Yeah.
the wake of Memorial Day. But all those people that contribute day in and day out are a big part of what's keeping the world safe and what's keeping our country safe.
Yes, and I
So
knew
they are to be saluted.
you're right on. And I learned that Les Paul would often visit veterans,
Oh,
in
nice.
hospitals and
Sure.
prays for them. He really cared about those folks. And at Music Success, we have a place for those who have been affected,
Sure.
by
Sure.
war. I always come back to this. I won't go too far in it, but
No.
there's a great quote by Hawkeye Pierce, Alan Alda,
Yes.
into the mash.
Loretta Swit passed away. I don't know if you knew that.
I know.
Yeah. So
I loved
very
her
timely
character.
with the
Yeah,
Hawkeye Pierce quote. Go ahead.
yeah. All of their characters really
Yeah.
had a great impact on
Sure.
many of
Sure.
us.
Yeah.
We learned more about war there than we probably did in school.
Yeah.
And in how to be really witty,
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
the
Yeah. No doubt.
Hawkeye Pierce.
Big influence on my.
But however, they're in the ER and there's some guy and they're up to their elbows in blood and guts. And he's like, somebody complains. He goes, yeah, well, war is hell. And Hawkeye said, no, no. He said, hell is hell. War is worse.
Yeah.
And I really, there's just something with
Hell
that.
is hell. War is worse.
Yeah. That
Well said.
resonated with me.
Yeah.
And however, like they show in that show, there's ways to use humor and in our case, music to open up windows of serenity
Mm-hmm.
to give people a chance to heal from those psychological, those emotional, those soul wounds from
Yeah.
that. And some of this is secondary. If you grow up with somebody who's suffering from that,
Yeah.
we're there for them as well. And I think Les would be proud of that.
There is a new term I learned about that. It's called cross generational trauma, and
Mm,
that's like if your parents suffered from that from their service in the war, that
yeah.
the likelihood is a lot of that was passed down to you in
Mhm.
ways or another, either in expressions of violence or and so
Yeah.
we are, even though we're in that generation that didn't have to fight, that didn't have to serve us, what we call as Gen Xers. Um, I have so many friends that were sons of Vietnam vets that, tragically, a lot of that trauma was passed down to them,
Yes.
growing up, and so
Well, we
it's
take
great.
that on one E minor at a time.
That's
Boom.
right. Yeah. No. Well said. And I want to get into the next segment of our podcast. How we doing on time there, Maxie? Oh, good. We got plenty. Yeah, plenty of time. 4 minutes. But there's no reason why we can't start. Is it? So as I mentioned earlier, you've known since you were 4 years old that you wanted to play guitar.
Yeah.
And what I mean, I know it's like, was there something what sparked that for you at such a very young age? Like when I was 4, I think I wanted to be. I wrote this somewhere that I wanted to be a farmer, or when I was kindergarten age, I wanted to be a farmer and a Fred Flintstone. That was just like the first thing I thought of, and my siblings thought that was hilarious.
Well, I
And
don't know if you have the feet to be a Fred Flintstone. Getting around
yeah,
was pretty
the
tough.
belly's getting there though. Yeah,
The brakes,
yeah,
on his vehicle always amused me.
sure,
Um,
sure.
so that's a great question, and I would have to say it was my mom's record albums in the 70s, getting our early 70s, our Sansui, 1000X stereo system with the
Nice.
cross headphones.
Yeah.
Hearing stereo through headphones for the first time was
Wow.
mind blowing, and I'd listen to her Everly Brothers records, and
Sure.
the harmonies
Yeah.
where I experienced something internal that I hadn't before. She also listened to a singer-songwriter by the name of Lobo, which I believe is
Lobo.
Spanish for wolf. And it was
Nice.
that early 70s AM real sugar pop sound. I started listening to the band Sweet, which we all know from
Oh, yeah.
Little Willie, but then they went into a heavier mode with,
Little Willie,
yeah,
Willie.
with Blitzkrieg, not Blitzkrieg Bop. That's the Ramones. They didn't
Yeah.
come later.
Yeah.
Ballroom Blitz
Ballroom Blitz. That's
and
right.
Action and all these great songs. But I would have to
Yeah.
say the one album in particular that really inspired me to want to play was an album my older brother picked up called Meet the Beatles.
Oh
And
yeah.
it, as cliche as it is, there's a lot of people inspired by them because,
Yeah.
well, they were probably the greatest band for writing melody and songs, the greatest songwriters in modern
And
times.
George Harrison, excuse me, probably doesn't get the respect he deserves as
The
one of the greatest
silent Beatle, the
guitarists.
quiet Beatle.
And he inspired like was it Roger McGinn of the Byrds, and so
Mhm.
many of those guitarists like looked up to him, like idolized him for that guitar. Everyone else thinks, John and Paul, and they're certainly, obviously geniuses when it came to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
songwriting and the
What's
lyrics and all that.
amazing about them too is when the band broke up, they all had successful careers. I mean, how
Yeah.
many times does a big band break up and maybe the one person does okay and the rest of them
Yeah. Yeah.
hang it up? I mean, if John Lennon was alive, he'd still be putting out, and George,
Oh, I know.
music today. And I know Paul McCartney and Les Paul were very, very close
That's right.
friends
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Sure.
as
Well
well. And
said.
as well as, more of the, you get into the 80s, Slash and Les Paul I mean, anybody who really loved guitar sought out Les Paul because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the master.
Yeah. And then there was like a Steve Miller connection to didn't Les Paul teach Steve Miller band, who was from Milwaukee?
This is what I've
Yeah.
been told is that Les was, I believe, his godfather. And if
That's right.
when people are listening to this, if I'm wrong, please
Yeah.
chime in.
But I
Um,
knew because Steve Miller's family was on the production side of the music business, right? His
was that
father
what?
was, or
Yeah, yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So
exactly. And how cool. I mean,
yeah.
and they don't play at all alike. And Steve Miller fell in love
Yeah.
with the Stratocaster and that really ultra clean sound. However, he was deeply inspired, and then
Sure.
inspired to go his own
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. So we're going to finish up this first podcast, and thank you, Pat, and thanks for sticking around. And in the second one, we're going to talk a little bit more about Pat's meeting with a veteran, and what kind of transformed your life, and to be able to share your gift with others for healing, and so many other positive things. So stick around for podcast 2 of This Week in Waukesha. And in the meantime, please remember, safety is everyone's responsibility. good mental health and great music is everyone's right. So thanks for tuning in. And like I said, stick around for part 2 of This Week in Waukesha, May 31st, 2025. See ya.